This week's question is kind of an extension of last week's question. Last week's question was, well, how do we know that God really is God, and how do we know that Jesus really is God? This week's question comes to us from the same group, our incoming eighth graders, and the question is, well, if God wants us to go to heaven, then why did He give us free will, and why did He create sin? And so the answer to the first question, well, why did God give us free will? God gave us free will so that we would know that our love for him is genuine. Legend has it that Satan went to God. One of his original accusations was, well, they only love you because you make them love you. And God's response was, no, they are free to choose. They are free to love me or to reject me. They are free to believe me or ignore me. They are free to accept me or to abandon me. And because we are free to say yes or to say no to God, then we know that our answer, either yes or no, is a real answer, is a genuine answer. And it's not just because God made us to say yes to him all the time. Further, God not only gave us the freedom to choose, but he gives us the freedom to live through the consequences of what we have chosen, because a choice wouldn't really be a choice if there were no consequences. And so it's not so much a matter of God creating sin as it is God defining what it means to live fully and authentically as a human person. These are the things that we are to do, and these are the things that we are to avoid, and then leaving us free to choose and leaving us free to live through the consequence of our choice. So think of it this way. When the sun shines on the earth is full of light. When a cloud comes across, though, it casts a shadow on the earth. Now, the question is, did the sun create the shadow? Well, no. It's because the the cloud moved in between the sun and the earth, and it casts a shadow on the earth. So it's not really the sun that creates the shadow, but it is the cloud that blocks the sun from reaching the earth that causes the shadow to exist. So our lives are kind of like, imagine the ground underneath a tree on a sunny day. There are parts of the ground that are in light because the sunlight is passing through the tree and hitting the ground. There are portions of the ground that are dark because the leaves or the branches of the tree get in the way and block the sun. So imagine if you were like an ant crawling across the ground underneath a tree and passing from passages of light to passages of shadow. And it's not like the sun is out there blinking on and off as the ant moves from darkness to light and back to darkness again. There's some other feature of that ant's life that is causing that to occur. So God does not create sin. We create sin when we willfully disregard the things that he has said that we are to do and we fail to do them, or God has said, avoid this, and we choose not to avoid what God has asked us to avoid. And that's where sin comes from. So the eighth graders kind of wrapped all this up by asking, well, then what is the point of existence? Well, the point of existence is first to know God, to know what God has said, and then to put ourselves into a position of growing in confidence that what God has said is true and that what God has done is for our good. And that when we do what God has asked us to do and avoid what God has asked us to avoid, we grow in confidence and faith in Him, and we grow in the fullness and in the authenticity of the life that God created us to live.